Marc Molinaro is the GOP candidate for governor, and each day that goes on, as Cynthia Nixon draws the governor even further to the left, it opens up the door just a little bit more for Molinaro. Marc, good morning. Thanks.
Good morning, Greg. Glad to be back.
Thanks for coming on. We had John Zogby on this morning, Zogby Analytics, and John had said he's predicting that Cynthia Nixon is going to have a showing that will embarrass the governor.
Yeah.
I don't doubt, and I'd offer to you, she could even win the Democratic primary.
Wow.
There's just clearly, whether it's she or me, the argument that we've been making is that, sadly, with all the pomp and circumstance, the governor has allowed for the state of New York to become too expensive. And now we've seen, almost daily, another corruption-related scandal that is either the subject to an investigation or obvious, judicial action. And the governor, frankly, has done nothing but embolden that situation. So on the left and right, we're making the same argument that New York State is broken. He ought to give it back to the people and let us fix it.
Manaski.
I don't want to harp on this point. The governor has obviously had good showings, right, in New York. He's been dominant, gets a lot of support. The idea that Cynthia Nixon, with some of the proposals she comes up with, could unseat him, you've got to love the idea that you might be going up against Cynthia Nixon, who's proposing pot farms as reparations. How could she win with some of these platforms?
Well, I don't want to answer for you, Marc, but I'm going to say this. Be careful with that very large New York City far-left vote. Anything.
Yeah.
The best scenario for you, Marc, is Cuomo wins by a sliver. She stays on the ballot, and you skate into the governorship.
That could be. I don't listen. I leave punditry to pundits.
Yeah.
But you're right. Listen, a three-way race would be interesting. It also really exposes the public interest. The fact of the matter is the citizens of New York are not satisfied with this state government, and no, despite the ceremony, that there have been promises unfulfilled, pledges unmet. And the governor just doesn't seem to know the difference between right or wrong, and we've seen it exposed day in and day out over the last several weeks.
How can the governor criticize President Trump for the people that he surrounds himself with, and for the chaos that has happened in Washington, where this one's out, and that one's out, and this one's leaking? How does is that not the pot calling the kettle black?
I said that the other day. I said, "Hi, Pot."
Yeah.
It really is. And you know what I do think, and whether it's Utica or Poughkeepsie or the tip of Long Island, I do think people are just unhappy with politicians who seem to be more interested in dismissing each other, degrading each other, attacking one another. This governor spends more time attacking other people than trying to empower citizens to solve problems. And I do think that exposes a weakness. It's like this ego politics on steroids. And I think a lot of people have had enough. I've had enough of it because it isn't producing real solutions. New York isn't becoming more affordable because of it. Corruption isn't being confronted because of it. And we're not creating a place that's more inclusive for everyone with that kind of politics. The governor has, again, he's just emboldened a situation where, he's right, everyone else is wrong. And it just isn't pretty, and it's not producing real solutions. We've got to drive down taxes. We've got to make it easier for New Yorkers to live here. And we've got to ensure that this government is accountable to the people. It works for the people, preserving all of our rights, all of our freedoms, and all of our opportunities.
Schneiderman, more information seems to be coming out. Obviously, we have the accusers, but we have people on staff, people around him that have said there's a real the drinking thing, which was he was basically accused of heavy drinking and getting out of control. That seems to be something that they're kind of agreeing with people that are around him. What are you hearing that is coming out of all of this?
Well, listen, I served 5 years in Albany. I can't say that I knew the Attorney General well enough to say that this is something I knew about. And I feel for anybody who's dealing with addiction, but he's the chief law enforcement officer of the state of New York who is abusing women, all while pronouncing himself part of the Me Too movement. But what you have to understand, and I mean this not in a way to really impugn anyone, but it is a pattern of behavior among powerful men, in particular in this state government, that is just destructive. The governor only weeks ago dismissed two whistleblowers, two women who came forward in his Department of Criminal Justice who were interviewed because a supervisor was engaging in harassment. And the administration, again, these individuals, these women came forward, spoke to the administration, and the governor's office's response was to dismiss them and demote one of these women who now works in a hall closet. I mean, actually works in a hall closet. So it's just this dismissive nature because either they don't like bad press or they don't want to acknowledge the disease. And it is a pervasive, corrosive disease among powerful men who think they can take advantage of women. And it was highlighted at its worst with the Attorney General, who should have immediately resigned. But there needs to be a total cleanup in Albany.
All right, Marc, we appreciate your time. We'll do it again and keep us posted. Marc Molinaro is the GOP candidate for governor of New York State. Thanks so much.